live from the basement of Death Studios around southeastern Wisconsin. It is Playin and Slayin. Random encounter number 2. Here I am with Troy, and we are excited to have it's a dialogue when it's two people, right?
I think so. Yeah. Just the two of us. That's a
Yeah.
song too. We won't bring that in. We'll get copyright infringement.
That is a song. Yeah, we could play 15 seconds of it as a lead-in.
I don't even know. YouTube is like unbelievably, like the algorithms, they just sweep and look for anything. And I don't know. Yeah, I think if it can catch anything of a copyrighted song, it's gonna be like, oh no, copyrighted.
Yeah.
No money for you.
We can play like 8 seconds of it.
Yeah. Or for us, it's not like we're monetizing, so it's not.
True.
But
True.
Everybody else.
Please like and subscribe and join our channel. Be one of the 12 or so subscribers.
I think we're trying to break 20 on a few of them. So, but
that's the goal.
We're getting there. Everybody's got to build, right? From and maybe I'll make a flashy new, so I had to make like a clickbait thumbnail. To attract the viewers in the algorithm of something. So, and I need to I was reading, you just need to cut out the head. So I just need to cut out your head out of the background, Ty, and then put it on some kind of a splashy background of, I don't know, like burning games or something. And probably like something that we don't even talk about.
Heresy background.
Right. Yeah. Or something like that. And we don't even need to talk about it.
The Horus Heresy episode,
right? Even though we don't even talk about it,
thousands of clicks,
and it's just a question: why is the Horus Heresy for you? Why is the box too? Is the Horus back injury due to Horus Heresy box weight? We just need some kind of a lead-in question that we don't even need to address, but just like to get somebody to click on it.
We broke the algorithm. We figured it out.
And you can see I'm also kind of bitter. I know that's what the world we live in, but I really try to like not clickbait articles. Sorry, we're going way down to tangent. We wouldn't even like welcome people to listen to us and anything, but
no, we just dive right in.
But I really try not to click. Like I see, especially hate watch. I try not to hate watch.
Oh yeah,
right. Like you see a headline, and you're like, oh, that's whatever, and
I've intentionally not gone the spiky bits in like 7 years.
That is one. Yeah, there are certain certain websites that and part of that was also like I'm like there's so many ads on here like this is not even readable at some point, right? But the same thing with the videos, right? I'm like if I click on this and hate watch it, I'm actually giving you money. So as much as I may want to know what you want to say about this thing, I'm not going to do it. Keep it positive.
Yeah. Well, let's actually talk about what we're going to be talking about tonight. And that is, just Troy and I talking a little bit about what we're playing, maybe a little hobby, and then a lot of purchase. We're actually calling this this random encounter Acquisition Disorder is back, and that's back in all caps because Troy and I have not been thrifty or savings oriented as we've been purchasing a lot of random gaming stuff. So now that's where we put up the what's his name, Joe from Tiger King, Joe Exotic. Whereas the meme of I'm never gonna financially recover from this. And it's our random encounter too. But more importantly though, Troy, when you're playing and slaying, it is important to stay hydrated. And even though there's only 2 of us tonight, we are equipped with beverages. So what are you drinking as we sit down to record?
I am, and since we have video, might as well use it. I have in the Adepticon glass, kind of dirty, Windexy water or whatever, but I had to bring a classic. It's hot here. It's hot, and I needed something cool, and I needed to make a little pick-me-up, and I have just enough acai Van Gogh vodka over there, acai blueberry, and one of my small cans of White Monster to make kind of the BOD special house cocktail. So very good. It's been a long time. And just opening the bottle, you forget how good like that vodka just smells. Like you can just like open the bottle
I might need to bring the fixings for that to Gen Con and make that like the resurgence
Oh,
of the house cocktail.
yep. Yeah, and it can, yeah, because it can travel, right? You can do
Yeah.
lots
I
of good
mean,
stuff with it.
technically, you're not supposed to fill your water bottle with a mixed drink, but Dr. Gabe has proven that conventions you can do that.
Yep.
Um, so take that page out of his playbook.
Cool. So what are you
Uh,
drinking, Ty?
yeah, so I've got a Good City Pils, just a pretty standard summer beer from Good City Brewing here in Milwaukee. Um, Pretty good. I bought this 6 pack the other day, and I used 2 cans to boil up some brats over the weekend, and then the other four I'm drinking. So um, yeah, it's refreshing. Relatively one of those beers where it's just have a few and don't feel the effects and don't get too full.
Awesome. So I do have an honorable mention for the our hydration segment. The this over the weekend I was up in Door County and hitting Brewfest, Door County Brewfest,
Oh, nice.
which is up in Bailey's Harbor, and I took it pretty easy. We weren't, and it seemed like it actually was a more laid back crowd. It was definitely not the I'm gonna try every beer and as fast as I
Yeah,
can kind of crowd. It was definitely a kind of everybody hanging out on the grass, eating and sipping a few. But I found this, and I'm trying to see if I can find a good the actual name of it. But if not, and it happened to be and I don't know if this is good or bad. It happened to be the first beer I found, and that was probably I wouldn't say the best beer, but the most interesting beer of the whole thing. It's Stubborn Brothers Brewery or Stubborn Brewery up in Shawano, Wisconsin, for people who are
oh wow,
somewhat
all right.
local. So Brice, it's in here, striking distance of his neighborhood. They had this I don't know, margarita. I should find the exact name. A margarita kind of lime beer. We didn't after we
So is
tried
it
it.
like a sour,
Yeah, a sour. Yeah,
basically?
a margarita sour. Yeah, a margarita sour.
Okay.
And I'm thought, oh, that sounds interesting. To try it. It's 12%. It
Oh,
won the thing. That was the highest
oh,
alcohol level thing out of any of the beer that was there. Didn't realize that till afterward, but it's just amazing. It was just like as for a sour and a lot of margarita. There's so much going on.
yeah,
It doesn't even not quite a beer. I mean, at that alcohol level, it's almost like a barley wine, right, or something else like that.
yeah.
But I don't know exactly how they were doing the flavoring, but yeah, just honorable mention to that one. So I might have had at least 3 samplers of that because
Nice.
then
We'll have to
because
figure out how we can get some of that for
yeah,
circulation.
right, we might have to figure out how to. We know people and it's on kind of near, so I just wanted to bring that one up. So um,
All
if you
right.
and I had never heard of them before, so I don't know how long
Yeah, no.
Stubborn Brothers Brewery in Shawano, Wisconsin has been around, but they definitely have some interesting beer.
Nice. All right. So that is what we've got tonight as we head in. Let's you know what? Let's start with playing and let's just go right to the good stuff. Um Started a new D&D campaign. So we finally, after a year and a half or so, maybe 2 years, wrapped up Rime of the Frost Maiden. I don't think we counted up the sessions, but we got our money's worth out of
Yep,
that
yep.
that campaign. Um, Wrapped that up with I think a pretty good finale episode. It felt like a good place to end. Um, and then took maybe 2 weeks off, and I kind of built out a homebrew world that I've played another campaign in before, but I took an area of the map that had been unexplored and I gave it some history and I fast forwarded the timeline 100 years, so like some stuff has happened, and then introduced it to this group that we play with in our every other week Tuesday night game. Um, and yeah, Troy, I mean, initial thoughts. We'll get Brice and Josh to weigh in next time, but we'll just cover off the quick kind of, because this was your first time seeing kind of the world that I've
Yep.
affectionately called the world of the Sundering. Um, Still need a good name for it, but that's the
I don't
working
know.
title.
Yeah, it's working title. It'll go. I'm excited. Again, did we play 2 sessions? We played 2 sessions, character creation. You can, at least for me, it feels like definitely a world that you've put a lot of time into, or that like there's a lot of depth. Like it feels like just stepping in, even though you're only, we're very much at the beginning of this campaign. The world feels very rich, feels very kind of built out. In some ways, we know that there's history there, and I think that maybe that's because even, like you said, because even some people in the group have know that history, right? So it just feels really rich. So I'm excited, and then I think all the stuff you've been doing. I don't know if we wanted to touch on it now or kind of later, but I think the stuff you've been kind of creating in terms of content creating for the players, in terms of the world Anvil stuff, and continue to build that out and create resources for us, just like a source book in some ways. And I think some ways for you, it's a way to you kind of get the stuff down and kind of flesh it out down too. So I think that just adds to it too, because there's stuff in there that also, that again, doesn't directly affect, at least right now, it doesn't directly affect what we're doing, but it adds to the world, even all the deities and things like that. So I'm really excited because it feels really rich. It feels like, okay, we're in this one little spot, but there is a much greater world out there, and there's things going on beyond our group. And I always like that feeling, right? That we may have our effect on that, but the world continues to move around us in some ways. So
and I'll quick talk about World Anvil. So I was looking for a way outside of like Discord or a Google Doc to kind of just capture notes and put some background info. So I stumbled upon World Anvil. I think it's just worldanvil.com, and created just a free account. And then it lets you kind of create like an encyclopedia almost, or like a player's primer. And I put a map up, and then you can pin drop and put like a description and all these pins on the map. So I made the map in Roll20 the hard way, screenshotted it, put it in the paint, loaded it into World Anvil, and then added all the pins and the descriptions. But like there's cool ways to create timelines. So like the group is part of a mercenary company. So I kind of put up the 25-year history of like the mercenary company from when it started to where it is now, and they've all joined at different times. It's cool. I'm putting a lot more time and effort into the building aspect of the world, just so that there is kind of that feel of a true sandbox. Like I was definitely inspired by like the old Pathfinder, Adventure Path Kingmaker, and like reading the Malazan books, and then I read the Black Company. So there's a lot of like different competing things that inspired me to go this route.
And I don't, again, I'm sure that I'm a little bit tainted because I am in the middle of the Malazan books, but it does have there. I do feel like you have put a little bit of a Malazan. There's a little bit of that going on in there, but the same thing, Black Company too. I can feel that too. So it's its own thing, but it also feels like it's very like a lot of the other really things I love also kind of feel like they're in here somewhere, right? So it's very interesting.
Heavily influenced, yeah. And I take a little bit of Mercer's like Teldori. I take a little, it's just I don't know. I struggle with thinking of truly original ideas. So I think, storytelling is kind of borrowing and reshaping and, subverting kind of what other creators do. So I'm playing with that. And that's a new campaign. We'll hear more, I'm sure, as we go through it. So far, you guys have avenged your captain who was killed by orcs, raided their encampment, started a fire on their palisade fence, and then got a map and a letter speaking of a new place, and then a couple of X's on a map that you have no idea what's there, but now you've got a few POIs to possibly explore. So that's D&D, and then have played Sushi Go a little bit at home. So Landon and I played 2-player, and then we played with Nicole on Father's Day after we went out to dinner. Got home, and I said, let's play a game. So we played Sushi Go, which I'd forgotten how fun that is. Have you played that one, Troy?
I can't see behind me.
It's I don't know if it's
over.
On your
it's
show.
over there. Oh wait. Here we go. Sushi.
There it is.
I'm like, I think it's right here somewhere. I have not played. I usually end up playing with you.
Yeah, it's like a card
Yep.
drafting. Pass it around. You pick
Yep.
pieces of sushi out to score points. You play 3 rounds, and then the winner is the person with the most points at the end of the round. So,
Yep. And don't let it. What's the one high point set that you don't want to let people get? Can't let
sashimi.
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 Yeah,
If you
don't
get
let
3 of
somebody
them,
get
it's like
ahead.
10 points.
Yeah, don't let somebody get. And you have to be careful. That's the only keep track is somebody
Yeah,
trying to get.
you can't let somebody run away with all the Mackie rolls and
Yeah.
get those 6 points. You don't want to be the person with the least amount of pudding
Yeah.
because then you lose 6 points. Yeah, there's some fun.
It's a fun little game. Again, and it's again one I feel you just keep on your shelf, and there's always
so quick.
It's a good one to
crazy.
bring out, even if you have a mix of gamer, non-gamer people. It plays pretty cool. So yeah, it's one of the classic. And I think right there is, I don't know if you have like I'll call it the classic. The original is 6 players or something else like that, and then there's
then they made like a party.
Sushi Go Party, I think, or and then that one I don't know, it is like 12 or something like that. It's a bigger box and just lets you play with a whole bunch. And again, and doesn't actually, because you're doing kind of the drafting, right? I don't think it actually adds any time to the to the game.
I mean everyone's picking their cards simultaneously, revealing and passing, so it's it goes quick. And then every week I play Vampire 5th Edition. We just finished our 14th session last week, Wednesday. Taking a week off this week due to some real life commitments for folks. But we have also started, I say we, the royal we, Andrew and Charlotte primarily are the creative forces behind the video content and production. Charlotte has actually started editing the first one into a podcast format. So actually like just a straight actual play, cutting out a lot of the downtime or stuff between. And then also started doing some small, I guess you call them vignettes, like one-on-one character to character RP sessions to reveal information, calling them nocturnes. So they're like 10 to 15 minute. We've got the first 2, I think, are out on the YouTube, and plans to record another couple. So they're just little like ways for us to get some exposition and character, advancing their own stories and plots with other characters between our sessions. So we'll put the link out there. They're all available. The first 13 on YouTube, the 14th should be out soon. And then we do Wednesdays on Twitch, usually gets started around 8:30 p.m. Central Time on Mr. Mephisto's Twitch stream, where you can catch us live, hang out and chat, and check it out. But yeah, Vampire the Masquerade, Endless Elegy. So Milwaukee by Night has been a ton of fun. And after this, where you've hit that spot now where people's agendas are becoming a little clearer, you're starting to see some of the politicking and some of the other storylines advancing. So it's been a lot of fun.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, it's always cool to watch you and do it. And then I just saw those Nocturne minis, and I was interested in like, oh, this is interesting and a little bit more. I think it adds some, but it's also a way to kind of just also get a quick hit of the stuff you guys are doing. So awesome.
What have you been playing, Troy?
So I think the one thing we kind of did we played a couple other games, but I think we're going to save those for another time. But John and I can't remember why I think it might have been an Adepticon or some kind of, like, we had a pledge. We were like, hey, we're going to actually play a lot of these GW games that we all own, but we don't get to the table very often. So we just kind of like, let's do an Adeptus Titanicus. Because I have a whole bunch of that stuff for some reason. I think I have a bunch, and then I think our friend Dan had, when he kind of got out of it, had given me some of the stuff that he had, and so I have a lot, and so we built kind of a fun table, and then we just threw down big. We were like no little mechs or no little titans. We're putting big guys. So 2 warlords, I think 2 warlords and 2 reavers. Did we have? I think. Or we might have just done a warlord and a reaver. I'm trying to think how we did it. I feel like we had 3 on there, so we might have had a couple. And which again played. That's such a good game. So it feels like you're running these big, Titans, and a lot of fun. And it's a pretty. I mean, most of the time you have kind of a turn limit of 4 or 5 turns anyway, and you just have the control panel, and you're and you're always fighting over. You never have enough, right? You're always kind of either don't have enough power, or your shields are going down. Or you're trying to where do I repair? And then you have these massive weapons that are just kind of raining all kinds of stuff on you on that. So it was kind of fun. I think John ended up kind of winning. I think he took out my Reaver, and so my Warlord decided it was time to back out on that. But I also I also had a Power Fist on my Reaver, so I'm like, we're going up close and personal and see what he can do. And he whiffed a couple times when he did get in there, but he whiffed a couple times. So it's good. It kind of motivation to kind of keep probably building some of that stuff, and there's always more to paint on some of that. But
yeah,
I don't know. I think part of it I always try and like go, I'm gonna paint this really super good, and I think what I should just do is like, hey, let's just at least get a paint on it and get it on the table, because it's still gonna look pretty cool. So that was fun, yeah. And to get that to, again, rather than have it sit on the shelf for a while, to get it. And again, I think that's a game too that would, multiplayer, couple, where each person's kind of controlling a warlord or something else like that, and you can have a couple sides. I think that'll be kind of fun, and it kind of blends right into the current Horus Heresy revamp and resurgence too. So I think that'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, I saw. I think you still had it left when we came over the other night to play a game that we'll talk about when the other guys are on. But
yep,
had another board game night, and you had it all kind of still out on the table.
Yeah, it's still. I cleared the table, but the Titans are still standing over there because I haven't moved them back to. I don't want to move them back to their shelf yet. They're feeling lonely.
So you talked about all that there is to paint. Have you been doing any hobby? Other than World Anvil and world building, I haven't done any painting.
Let's see, what was my hobby? I did build a Roll20 screen for you just on a whim one evening. I spent like 3 hours scooping around as a creative outlet.
Which reminds me, I need you to send me the actual JPEG file.
Yep.
So that I can update the journal.
Cool. Yeah, we'll have to do that. And again, hopefully we can make it a little bit of a living picture too as we go more. I kind of left a lot of open space on it with the idea that we'll kind of add some artifacts to it as we go through. So
definitely.
So yeah, and I think we might have called out before, but really want to give Matt Weeks a shout out, because he was the one that showed us all the ones he had done for his Roll20 campaigns for each one where he had done, and he has, I think, crazy graphic design skills. So it's some really cool ones, but it was inspiring, and so I've been trying to do that too, and with some of the artifacts out there, and raise up my Photoshop game. So, but otherwise, beside that, I am slowly working my way through our hobby challenge, which is the Marvel Crisis Protocol squad. So I'm slowly trying to get some X-Men. I think just because I had done classes, I started building Magic, who's in the same box there, his sister. And so I kind of have that in a couple of sub-assemblies, because it's, she's kind of, I think, jumping or something. So it's kind of a weird one. So I didn't want to completely assemble it. And then I see 4 boxes of of other miniatures still in shrink right next to my table that I want to start putting them together, so I have a feeling you guys might catch me a little bit on this challenge, depending on, I think we bought ourselves a couple more weeks to go there, but I don't know if I'm going to get too far.
Know. I'm incredibly far behind. Like, I haven't started anything, because any spare time that's not consuming other content or playing games has been fiddling around with World Anvil and Roll20. I don't know how many hours I sunk into that stupid map.
Yeah, and we're worried a little bit because I think Brice is back. Seeing his progress.
Almost finished, and he started painting again. But then he went to Mexico for a vacation.
So he gave us a little bit of a breather.
Yeah, maybe it's like a hard reset.
Yeah. So.
Well, so that, I think, brings us to crowdfunding, a little bit of Kickstarter, and by a little bit, I mean, there's been a lot recently. so I'll lead in with a few things that I've received and or backed, and then we'll talk about a few new ones that are out there. So I just got my wet palette from Redgrass Games, the version 2. So they did the improved kind of wet palette. Looks to be roughly the same shape, maybe just a little bit thicker, better lid, but same kind of concept with the attachable magnetic, like, um, I don't know what you call it, the little attachment that has the little bowls where you can put like paint, to work from on the side. Didn't get any of the other real accessories, but just kind of the basic set. That Kickstarter had been out, I think that was last year at some point. So it kind of surprised me when it came. I was like, "Oh, what's this?" Oh, right, my wet palette. Um, and then I stumbled upon, I think Doug from, is it Tough Up, or I can't think. He does a lot of AOS narrative stuff. On Twitter, he had talked about this solo RPG game called Legendary Kingdoms that he'd been playing. And then I think he had linked to it. There's a new Kickstarter out for their book 3, Pirates of the Splintered Isles. So it's a solo RPG. Oh, I went and bought the first one,
Oh, there.
the
So
Legendary
like
Kingdoms.
mine's, Ty, because I did not. I think I have I pulled down. They have a free, like I think they have a one PDF sample adventure, because I also
Yeah.
got sucked into the same thing where I'm like, ooh, this looks interesting, and they already have some stuff out there. So I didn't go far enough to buy the first one yet, but I pulled down
Well,
their sample because I'm
I'm
like, I
in
want to
deep.
kind of play with it. So
I bought and I've probably played like 6 hours. So I made a Google Doc character sheet, and I'm like, I've got my dice, my D6s. So you like get your party, and then it's all 6-sided dice to resolve skill checks and combat. And then you track on your sheet. Each character can have so many items, and you have stats that make your dice pool. Really simple
yeah,
mechanics in it, but it's like combining choose your own adventure with a game,
yeah.
and trying to figure out the region and explore everything. The completionist in me is like, oh, how do I get to that spot? How do I get there? Oh, I got to check that in. I got to check here. I got to check there.
Oh,
Um, and it's a rabbit hole. So I think I'm gonna buy the second one, and then I did pledge on the third one, the Kickstarter, and the game. They're releasing one book each year. I think it's a pretty small
yep.
operation out of England, I believe, or somewhere overseas in Europe. I think the UK. And it was like $35, I think, to order the first book from them, and roughly that for the Kickstarter. Um, it's just fun. It brings back the nostalgia of choose your own adventure, um, with like a fantasy theme, and the story isn't incredible, but like it's fun. It's a quick, easy thing to just sit down and roll some dice and have the feel of like an adventure game. You're not role playing, obviously,
Yep.
because you know you,
You can depends how many personalities you have,
yeah,
Ty. You can
yeah.
start talking to yourself. That's all
I
right.
could record my sessions and
Yep.
play as each of the 4 characters.
Just different voices. You'll be good. You'll be fine.
Right, right. But so I saw that really cool. It's Pirates of the Splintered Isles, is their third book. Well, let me check. So the Valley of Bones is the first one. Crown and Tower is the second one, and it looks like they actually have 6 planned for the whole series. But that was pretty neat. And then I see Shotguns and Sorcery is close. I think it's to the printer. The anticipated date for those to be in hand is early September, um, from what Matt Forbeck posted in the last update. So that's just right around the corner. Um, he's going to be at Nexus, which I'm sure we'll touch on a little bit in upcoming events, running some games for it. And then I got an update. It looks like Frosthaven is getting closer to
Yep.
going to print, and that's the expansion to Gloomhaven that sits on my shelf taunting me. I've only played a few times, but I've gotten much further in the computer
Right.
game
Exactly. Yeah.
version
I'm the same way. Right.
of
Yeah.
it, than the board game. So all those things are like on the horizon. And I think there's a couple that we both kind of saw and are
Yep.
interested in. I don't know yet. I haven't formed a decision on either one. Um, hopefully I didn't miss. But so Cyberpunk, the board game by CMON. So I'll disparage CMON for their business model later, but it is it looks like area control, kind of what I saw using the factions from the more of the video game than the old like role playing game. So I think the actual IP is likely the video game version of Cyberpunk 2077. Um, using some of the gangs and things in Night City, and you're trying the controlled districts. Don't know much else about it other than the IP, but likely some decent miniatures. Always good graphic design and art used by CMON. So I mean, high production value, but you're you're getting Cyberpunk. Now, what I will say is the video game had a lot of bugs and was pretty poorly implemented. Hoping the board game is not the same way, but that's the only thing. I want to just make sure their playtesting was solid before I go and
It could be a
back.
feature. It could literally be a feature of the game, right? A game element like, oh, you can't complete this. You're hung. Start over at the
Yeah,
beginning. Yeah.
yeah. You disconnect every
Yeah.
time you attempt to start this mission.
Oh.
Then the last one is Die. So the graphic novel about the role-playing game where the people go into the game world and come out horrifically scarred. I don't want to spoil it or anything. I also saw I think a TV series is in the works.
Yeah, I
Um,
want to say I don't remember exactly, but I feel like I saw something where again somebody has their hands. Again, there's always a long road between
right,
somebody
right.
being interested in actually getting something on a TV or a movie. We know that, but yeah, I mean, I'm you're farther than I'm still haven't read all the way through it, but it's just the initial exposure I've had as I've read through kind of the first volume is really interesting. Just really, again, it's very very character based, right? And just kind of that idea of kind of going into the real this whatever alternate world, right? And then coming
Yeah,
back and what the characters all have to do to survive or what they've given up has been interesting. So yeah, so it'll be interesting. The RP, yeah, how do you translate that into an RPG? Again, this could be one of the many RPGs that I buy and skim through and read, but never actually get to the table. But again, I was just trying to support something here that looked pretty cool and bring it to life. And again, like you said, it wasn't just to get a copy of the rules. So it wasn't a huge investment either. So should be interesting to see how this goes. And unfortunately, this one is complete. But I
yeah,
will
I see
I'll
that.
let you know if a lot of times a pre-sale or a pre-order kind of shows up, and if I hear about that, I will let people know.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with the company either. I think they're in the UK, um, from what I recall.
Yeah,
Rowan, Rookin,
Rowan
and
Rook
Deckard.
and Deckard. Um, and it's I mean it sounds like they have Karen Gillian and Stephanie
Hearth,
Hans.
Spire, and Honey Heist is a game that
Yeah.
they do. Yeah, so yeah, it looks like Kieran Gillen, the writer, is involved. So interested. We'll see what it's like, and hopefully get a chance to look through it because I'm sure the art style will be cool and like the writing. That's probably what would draw me to it more than
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
RPG book to sit on a shelf that I never actually play.
Yep. And they do. I mean, I have not. Again, I'm so bad. Like we talked about acquisition. Like I did not. There is like some preliminary actual play videos on the website here. So they again are what those rules look like compared to what they'll be at the end. You never know, right? A lot of times those are
Yeah,
very sketchy in terms of what the rule set is that those guys are doing some initial play testing with. But at least you can get a feel for it. Um, but I also would recommend read the book first. Don't get spoiled. So
right. Absolutely. So from a Kickstarter standpoint, lots coming soon and lots to back as always. It's a never-ending site. Even when we say we're done and we're going to stop for a while, we find a project and get drawn back in. God knows how
Yep.
many 3D printing Kickstarters Josh has backed in the last couple months.
Oh, I have just a library. I have not even gone down the. At some point, I'm going to end up going down the resin printer rabbit hole, but I've been holding off on that yet. But those continue to get better and better and less messy, because that's my big thing now, is just a lot of dealing with all the cleanup and alcohol and cleansing and fume stuff, and they're getting more and more where it starts to become more of a self-contained unit and things like that. Because if you look at what some of those guys are doing now, it'd be kind of cool to just print out some of have that stuff and
the
print
models,
out
the character models, and like army stuff. Yeah.
So we'll get there. We'll get there. We'll see. Yeah, either Josh or I will probably take a. I think Dr. Gabe has one, I believe, because I know he's been. So. Yeah, because I think he's had one, because I think he's been printing some, and every once in a while we'll see a painting project that he does. So.
And then just general purchase. So talked, lovingly about our acquisition disorders being back in full swing. I don't know about you, but recently I've just been splurging. Like on Amazon, I'll add stuff into the cart, or I'll go to the game store and pick up like a box of Magic cards, or like, I mean, so like Crisis Protocol, right? I found a store on Amazon that was selling them, so I bought Cable and Domino and Magic and Colossus to try to put together like the X-Force with my Deadpool and Sabretooth and Wolverine, just kind of get that gang together, or that affiliation together rather. Back that Legendary Kingdoms, talked about that already on Kickstarter, but I bought book 1. Now I'm going to go buy book 2. Like Baldur's Gate, Commander Legends, so the new Magic the Gathering set dropped, I don't know, a week or two ago. I went and I picked up just the bundle, one of their bundles of like set boosters, so the 8 packs with like a dice, and opened up those packs and found one of Elena's land cards that's like $10. And then this like cool like ancient black dragon that I guess is valuable, and so it was a good 8 packs. Definitely got my like card value in a handful of them. But evidently the set is recommended for drafting or to supplement Commander. So like where you get a 1 of and then play with 100 cards for multiplayer. And it reprints a lot of old Commander cards and then introduces new ones that are themed to like characters from Descent into Avernus or the Baldur's Gate, like Minsk and Boo and others. So like I got a Minsk and Boo Planeswalker card and like dragons and all sorts of cool stuff. And they use the old Monsters Manual art style for some of the cards too.
Oh, yep. Those are so cool. Yep.
And they have like an etched style art, like an etched foil, which is cool and rare. And it's a big set. I want to say it's like over 400 cards. I mean, just a lot of variety. So I'll probably buy more. I have a box in my cart so that we could just sit around and draft Baldur's Gate sometime.
Yeah, because I think we'll definitely, we're suckers for the Magic D&D crossover stuff. Yeah. So I will dip my toe in there too, and do that. I don't know if anybody has ideas or what I'm really trying to do is find a good but not like, I don't know, like super expensive. I want to display Magic cards in some, it's like a nice frame, and I'd love to because there's some that a bunch of Elena cards or certain, nice ones out of the D&D set, or I think and I just haven't found like a really and what I want, because in some ways, like I want to also like have a little bit, like I want to figure out like how many cards I want, here's the set of cards I want to display, and whether that's 11 or 12 or 9, I want something that's flexible enough that I can kind of figure that out. So I don't know if anybody has a good, I've seen there's some stuff out there, but it's always been a little bit like, hey, here's like they're for baseball cards or something else like that. Not quite
very straight, orderly. It's less like.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I'm just trying, and maybe it's more of a DIY thing, but even that I haven't found a good, like, YouTube, I didn't find any good. So I don't know if anybody has ideas or if people stumble across anything, I'd be interested to know.
Then the last one that I haven't bought yet, but the moment I see it available somewhere, I'm gonna buy it, is Ark Nova. The second printing sold out like in a hurry at most online retailers. There's a couple I've seen in places for higher price points, but trying to get my hands on it because I think that's the next board game that I just want to impulse buy. Um, Evidently, you're plan and design a modern, scientifically managed zoo with the ultimate goal of owning the most successful zoological establishment. So you like, it's kind of like Euro style zookeeper game, and I've heard it's all over the hotness on
Yeah.
BGG. It's everyone's talking about it. It seems like it's a really good game from Capstone. I just can't get my hands on a copy, so I'm kind of checking a few of the online retailers and looking around. My local game stores haven't had it, so I'm hoping if I can't get my hands on it before Gen Con, that at Gen Con I'll be able to find a
Somebody
copy.
will have it, right? Yeah.
But I'm hoping not to have to wait until then because that feels so far away,
Yep.
even though it's like 6 weeks.
What are we at? Yeah, we're getting closer. Yep, even that. So yeah, I heard lots of good things about Ark Nova. So be interesting to see.
What else have you been buying?
So I'm gonna do a little bit. So I also have been trying to buff up my Marvel Crisis Protocol. And I'm definitely in this. It's funny. I'm in the same space as you because I love the X-Force. I'm an X-Men, so I'm kind of going down that thing. So, I think I bought the other half of what you are, because I didn't have what you had and you didn't have what I had. So I bought kind of the Sabretooth Wolverine. And then I think, was it Cyclops and Storm, just to start building out my X-Men piece. I'm kind of looking over there because the pile is sitting over there. And I got that from Herrick Hobbies. They're actually out in California. And basically I met Sky Herrick, who is I think owner-runner.
Oh yeah,
came at Adepticon and played.
Carl's friend, right?
Carl, yeah, Hank knows Carl and over there. So I've been trying to just send him some love over there.
Yeah.
And again, if I'm gonna mail order something, whether I do it from, I like to do it from people we know, Mini Stomp or Sky or somebody else like that. And he was actually having a sale on things. That's what got me looking at it. And then you talked about impulse buy. I ended up. He also had the Mantic Games Armada, which is their ship fantasy ship. It's kind of the Mantic's version of what was the GW game. It was Dreadfleet, but before that, whatever the original was, that Dreadfleet was.
Manowar.
Manowar, right? The original. So it's like Armada is more of like the Mantic version of envisioning of a Manowar. And we played it at Adepticon, just a demo. It's a fun little game, and kind of a sucker for that. And again, I think he had it like 50% off on some of that. So I picked up kind of the starter and a couple extra ships that I might at some point put together, and it'd be fun just to move around the table. So that, again, total impulse buy that's sitting out over here. The other thing I think we'll save for the next big show, because I think it'll be interesting to see which people are actually sticking their foot back in, is kind of I got my starter box for Horus Heresy and the 2 books that are out there.
Everybody seems to be buying the new one.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see if we get a little bit of momentum, at least see how long that lasts. But maybe for the next 12 to 18 months, maybe we'll get some people and get some games in, something like that. So we'll I'm sure we'll talk about that in the future. But yeah, so that was a lot lighter on my checkbook too, coming out of that. Although I did use a lot. Again, I had a gift card and some credit there, so that kind of softened the blow. But it's not that starter set. It's a value, but man, it's still a pretty good investment.
The hefty box.
Yeah,
I was looking at it at Games Universe over the weekend, and I don't know. I don't know that I'll do it. I feel like it would be one of those things I buy, like, look at my shelf, Dominion, Curse City, Necromunda, and don't build and paint and play. But if you get your forces painted up, maybe sometime we can do a.
Well, and I would say, like, you probably don't need the starter box, right? I would say, if you dip your toe in, you get a squad, or you get, start to build in it, and maybe
and
right, yeah, and just have a little bit of force, and because I feel like what do we have? Like, maybe we end up having some Horsey days, right, where we kind of like everybody bring over whoever's their loyalists and whoever's the traders, bring over your stuff, and let's do an afternoon. Let's throw on the table, have a big battle, right? And
tell Heath will supply a whole side of that.
Oh, right. Yeah, because he has
White Scars stuff.
Right, and so that's why I'm like, I feel like you could, you have a little squad of yours and borrow the rest, and we'll get some fun out of it. So, so that's miniature. Again, in the pile of RPGs I buy and never play, probably, if I get it out of here. So again, this was a lot of this is sponsored by Matt Weeks's Instagram. I saw that he had mentioned this, which is Midnight Legacy of Darkness. This was an old setting. I think it's been around for about, they said 20 years, I think, that Fantasy Flight actually had done the original version. And so it seems like, again, similar to what it called to me, was a kind of a darker, D&D background, where you kind of have the races, but they're all, it seems like it's much darker, and some, bad things have happened in that universe. And so it just tweaks some of it, and it has kind of its own classes and things that it extends. And they had redone it for 5e. And this is Edge Studios, because I think they must have got the rights to it after Fantasy Flight was done with it. So, again, interesting enough. I haven't gotten a chance to read through a lot of it, but again, interesting to know if you even a one shot, or just even are there stuff in here that you could steal or inspire from into other campaigns or something else like that. So, again,
who published that again?
So it's Edge Studios.
Edge. Okay.
Yeah. And it's kind of, I think they're calling it Midnight Legacy of Darkness is this version. So be careful, because there's still a lot of the old stuff. The first edition, I think that still sits out there. So, but yeah, Edge Studios. And they seems like they're supporting it pretty heavily. They got some good kind of some free resources on their site, and a pretty good website. And I think there's also, I got the Dead Tree version, but I think they have all that stuff on Drive-Thru RPG. And if you just want to dabble in that without taking up shelf space, so
nice. Yeah, the ever dwindling shelf space.
Yeah.
Of collectors.
But it is a very nice book. Again, it's hard to do.
Yeah, is the art pretty cool?
Yeah, pretty. I don't even know if I can. We'll just pick this little orc guy that's up here.
All right.
So go. Kind of a darker style, kind of very
Have you seen? I think it's Blackbirds RPG.
Nope.
So Joe Manganiello knows somebody that is. I can't think of the guy that is doing it, but he's a. It's supposed to be like a dark gothic fantasy role-playing game. Looks interesting. Haven't picked it up or spent much time researching, but what you described from Midnight kind of reminds me of what they're doing with that.
And while we're on the dark, just totally popped in mind, not in our notes. If you haven't, speaking of dark and whatever, if you've not checked out Adrian Smith's YouTube channel, just amazing. No. The guy is, right. His art is so over the top. Yeah. And to watch him create it, it's not like he's on there every day, right? He's got, but the stuff that he put on there about where he's creating whether he's doing some drawings, there's some or some watercolor, I think the new one that's out there, he just did something around, he said, kind of going back to some acrylic painting stuff that he had kind of done. God, that guy is so talented. It's so amazing, right? It's so much fun to watch this guy go from, how he goes from a pencil sketch to the crazy ink, whether he's just doing a black and white ink or like you said, a watercolor that he was in, just so talented. And it's just really cool to watch the creation process. And he does a pretty nice job of kind of walking through when he does the videos. Yeah, like, here's what I'm doing and why he does it and some of that stuff too. So just kind of, this popped in my mind when we were looking at this art. Check it out if you get a chance. And I think it's just his name. If you look Adrian Smith, I think you're going to find it. So
very cool. So speaking of watching people or listening to people, it's not really purchased, Troy, but I don't know where we fit it in. So maybe you can plug, when you're not spending money on games, what are you doing with some of your free time?
So a little bit, as we mentioned on, I think, the live episode, we had the announcement around, again, we're going to run Space Hulk for the Adepticon welcome dinner next year. I've been working with Terrace on that. If you kind of know Terrace, also, he has the Freebooters podcast group out of there that he's kind of been running and managing, that has a bunch of different podcasts under there. One of those being the current version of the classic 40K radio podcast that has Matt, Alex, and Jeff on there. So I got a chance to kind of sit in and get interviewed by the 40K radio crew. And that actually came out, I think, earlier this week. I just noticed that it was out there, and so it was kind of fun. A lot of it, I just talked a little bit about kind of us, what we do, and then about kind of Space Hulk and how that evolved over the years, and what we're doing there. So it was fun to get to spend a little time and talk about that and share that with the thing. And I know at some point we may ask Matt to kind of join us maybe a little bit later in the summer or something. And he also besides 40K Radio, I think he also does Nerd Herders or which is kind of a more general gaming podcast similar to what we do too. So also has some interest in there. So yeah, it was fun to drop in on that. I mean, 40K Radio has been around in some form. That podcast is one of the originals. We got to be going back 15 years or so. I almost think. At least 10, if not more, for it had to be, because I think it was before even we existed as a group. So it has to be, it had to be late 2000, 2007, 2008, probably when that kind of took off with Spencer and
Joe Rogan and 40K Radio, the first two.
Right, kind of podcast, yeah. It was interesting. I mean, in the original, I mean, we could go down a whole, there's some way, I think, maybe Ty, that's our I don't know if you ever did that back in the day, but kind of that whole, really about 15 years ago, like what the podcasts were then, what you were listening to, that was when I started getting to it, and you started to get some of those gaming podcasts. And it was interesting to some of those, I don't know if they exist, some of them I don't even know if they might be able to find some audio recordings anywhere, but there was some actual play stuff, there was some good GM stuff back in the day. There was, kind of general. It was interesting. Kind of, I'm always like, I should go back and kind of pull up all those old shows and do a little bit of a walk through history in that.
Well,
but yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're on podcast though. I didn't add this to show notes, but that's a good reminder. So, Gaming and BS is a Wisconsin podcast. They are either just recorded or soon recording their final episode. I think they're calling it quits. And then Dan, we mentioned for the Adeptus Titanicus stuff you got from him, but him and Brendan are recording episode 100 of Cubic Shenanigans coming up. So, pretty cool for some other Wisconsin podcasts. One, I've always enjoyed Sean and Brett's Gaming and BS. It's a heavy RPG focused podcast, but they're wrapping up, and then Cubic Shenanigans is kind of our neighbor, so to speak, as far as our part of the state, and they're doing episode 100, which is always a really impressive milestone, considering most podcasts don't get to 20 episodes, let alone 50 or 100. So look for that coming soon too. Yep,
no, it's a good call. Yeah, I saw the Gaming and BS too, that they were kind of had a going away, and I can't. Yeah, we'll get that out there because I can't. I think we might still be under when they're getting other. But again, lots of past content there, and those guys also are at a lot of conventions, and they run a lot of events and things like that.
Big presence at Game Hole.
Yep.
The Gaming and BS has a huge presence at Gamehole in Madison. I guess do we open the doors to the library?
Let's open it. You definitely have more books on your shelf than I do, but yeah, let's.
Yeah, I realized that I set a goal for 50 books this year, and I'm like behind now. Here we are at mid-year, and so I'm trying to catch up. So
Uh,
I started reading Gideon the Ninth. I picked that up, and I'm about 175 pages in. So they've arrived to the Canaan house, and they're starting to unravel the mystery of the doors.
yeah.
If you recall, I don't want
Yep.
to spoil it
Yep.
too much, but um, enjoying that a lot, and I'm reading through that one actual like paper. I finished Under the Banner of Heaven, so I'd been working on that for a while. That's the John Krakauer's kind
Okay.
of true crime about Mormon fundamentalist brothers that end up murdering a woman and her baby in the 80s, and then it talks all about the Mormon religion and the fundamentalist like splinters that go off into these strange communities across the southwest of the U.S. Um, and then I in a day I read a series of essays. A book it just came out from a comedian I really like, Tom Segura. It's I'd like to play alone, please, and that comes from a story about which I love because it's the stuff kids say. He went up to his 6-year-old and like, hey, what are you doing, buddy? And he said his kid is now like forming full sentences, at 6, like kind of has that personality. And his kid
Yeah.
said to him, I'd like to play alone, please. And went back to like playing with his trucks. And it's just a series of stories.
Uh,
Some if you're familiar with his comedy,
yeah.
you'll recognize from his specials or other things, but about his family and about, he has several essays are about famous people that he rode on planes with. So like, talks about when he rode on a plane with Serena Williams and Mike Tyson
Okay.
was on his flight and all these different, and he'll always snap a selfie with
Yeah.
them and then he writes the story. So it's 200 some
Yeah.
pages, but I breezed through it over Father's Day. Um, then I'm listening to Child of a Mad God. So this came out a few years ago. It's R.A. Salvatore, who's written all of the Drizzt stuff
Yep.
and Forgotten Realms. Um, but it's not in the Forgotten Realms. It's his own world. He's done one trilogy before this, and then this was the second trilogy. I think the 2 books are out of it. And I just kind of picked it up on a whim on Audible. I don't know. He's a good author. He's developed his craft after all these
Yep.
years. Like he's telling a good story, but I'm just finding it really hard to get interested in the world um but I'm grinding through it. It's like an 18-hour
Yeah.
listen and I think I'm 10 hours in. So, um and then I've been watching a lot of late night TV, just binging shows. So Barbarians was a German show about the Germanic peoples that fought the Roman Empire. And it's dubbed over in English. I'm listening to it, but all the Latin when the Romans talk
Mm.
is subtitled. So originally it's German language,
Mm.
but I'm listening to the English dub, but then all of the Latin is subtitled. So you get this interesting, um, way of consuming. And I watched that. It's 6 episodes. Just tore through it. Peaky Blinders released a new season on Netflix. That's the 1920s gangsters in
Yep.
England with Cillian Murphy and Tom Hardy has a bit part in it, and other guys. Binge through those 6 episodes, and that's it. That show's done. I'm like, oh my god, I need more. Like, how am I gonna walk away from a show? Stranger Things, season 4, part 1. I know part 2 is releasing here any day
Yeah.
now. I think
Yep.
early July. All I'm gonna say is Vecna's pretty cool to see. Have you watched
I
Stranger
have
Things
not.
yet?
I am behind. I think I'm behind. I've never even finished 3. Like
Okay.
we were pretty like hot and heavy. Like that was actually one thing I could get Sherry to watch with me together, and then but we just haven't. Yeah, I haven't, and I feel bad like doing it without her now. So I'm like, we have to, or I'm just gonna like shadow watch it and like not tell her. That's it.
Yeah,
Because
Nicole and I made an agreement to watch that on our own because we have so little time where we'll watch like stuff together during baseball season. So she watched it on her own time, and I watched it on my own time. And but yeah, it's really cool. So I'm glad I got through that. But it's just been these ridiculous like Netflix binges late at night where I'm staying up too late and I should be sleeping, but instead I'll watch And then I watched season 3 of Barry on
Yeah.
HBO. I love that show. Have you seen that? Bill
I
Hader.
have not heard it, but I know I've heard you guys talk about it, and then so
Yeah.
it's funny. I've like yeah, I poked my nose in it and saw some scenes because there are some pretty funny things that are because
There-
even there's memes and things that come out of that show, and so I've like without watching it, I've tried to learn more about it and watch some because that's of it.
So that's for me just a ton of reading and watching. How about you? What have you been
So I
reading
am
through?
still in the Malazan Empire, working my way through the whatever 30 some hours that those books are, but enjoying it.
You,
I'm on book
you
2, so
on book 2? Okay.
yeah, just really the whirlwind and
Yeah, that's
and
where they transfer. You just get shunted across the world
yeah,
to the Rariku, the
yeah,
desert.
oh, and yeah, it's pretty good. And again, as it yeah, I mean, we can do a whole thing on that series. I'm getting more and more excited about it. I know that, and interestingly, I mean, we can again a whole nother episode probably as we talk about. But I did as I know you guys watch your TikTok book whatever.
Oh
I
yeah,
was
book
following
talk. Yeah.
there's some YouTube book review people and one and he was doing like, hey, my best 10 fantasy things, and I won't but what's interesting is he actually put the Malazan books above Lord of the Rings. Like he said, and this was like a revision recently,
Mhm.
and he's like, I had, and it wasn't like, and he said it was really the entirety of the
Yeah.
what Steven Erikson has done, because I think there's that series, and there's actually another author that's actually written something in that world or something, I think, or
Yeah.
along with it, yeah. And so that was his kind of like currently, it was interesting, and it's one of those ones where you find people like, okay, he, as he was going through it, I'm like, all right, yeah, that's one I like, so you found somebody you knew was on to kind of the same wavelength with you. That's what I always like for reviewers, right? You're like, all right, if he kind of likes this stuff that I like, then I'm gonna take some recommendations from him and kind of go forward. But
You'll have to put that link up or see if you can
yeah,
find it.
yeah, so it's pretty interesting. But yeah, it was that he put right now. He had that as, and I was surprised because I was just kind of going, "Oh, interesting seeing him." Like, "Oh, where's he?" No, he's got that right,
Mm.
number one. And he's like, "Oh, this will be controversial," but I'm putting the Malazan stuff as his number one ahead of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So yeah, I'm excited to walk through that. And yeah, it's just, things are starting to take a turn. I think I'm at part 4, so I'm probably in the last third of the book now, through that. But I like how he always, like every book, even in the first book, he has certain characters, and I think maybe that's the strength of it, is the different characters that certain characters that I totally dislike. Like you hear him, you're like, when are these people gonna die? But then he always kind of like there's something about him that then kind of like, oh, I get it, and I understand. Yeah, like he does such a good job.
Who's your favorite character so far?
Man,
And why is it Callum?
no, see, I don't know. I guess I'm a sucker for the women. And you don't now, no spoilers. I'm trying to figure out if Tattersail ever comes back. Because I thought she was pretty awesome
Yeah.
as a super wizard, like especially as a female, and then I'm interested to see. I mean, she's not really character. I wouldn't call her fair. I'm in, like Apsalar or whatever. Just her story and arc has been interesting on that. And then
Fisherman's daughter, right?
yeah, right, yeah,
Yep.
who might have been possessed by a god at some
Right.
point. No spoilers.
Maybe.
I think that's some interesting ones. I'm trying. I mean, Kalam, right, has been like the assassin who's
Yeah.
not right. There's some stuff that, there's some
Yeah.
pretty cool. It'll be interesting to see. Like again, I assume that some of these characters will come back, but some of the people from some of the bridge burners from the first book, it'll be interesting to see if they get picked up again. You find out what happens to some of them, because I think there were some interesting guys in there. But
Remind me, the book 2 also follows the chain of the dogs, right? The army kind of marching.
Yeah,
Victory.
so it's
The
what the heck?
crow. I can't think
What
of
the I can't.
his-
It's the Wiccans.
Yeah.
It's funny. They're the other side, right? So they're the Malazan army that's being hounded out by the by the rebel, those and
Renegades,
renegades. And so that again, you have the historian character there who's pretty interesting. As in that group. And what's again, I think even in the first book, right? It's like it's not like you're getting both sides of like there's no real like again kind of like an Abercrombie in some ways, like there's no like good guys bad guys here. It's kind of like, and even as you learn more, you're kind of like originally you're like, oh, the Malazan Empire is not good, and you're like, I'm not sure, they're
kind of assholes.
And then you're like, well, now that there's this big rebellion going on, maybe they're not that right.
See, we just went like 10 minutes deep on Malazan. What we need to do a special episode with Matt.
And bring it when those are kind of coming. So that was all on just Malazan. You can tell that has been taking my time. What I did finish otherwise though were two kind of non-fantasy whatever. So I read Bittersweet by Susan Cain. If you ever read, Susan Cain also did Quiet, which is a book about kind of introverts and how to function in that. Bittersweet was interesting because it really talks about how why does some people like, whether it's, her thing was like, hey, why do some people like sad music? What is there something about that? And just this kind of idea that life isn't, is in some ways challenging especially in America, there's this thing about, you always want to be happy, right? Like your whole goal is to always be happy. And, her kind of very, putting the whole book in 2 sentences is kind of like, life is not all, it's not, that's not the thing. There are ups and downs and how do you kind of figure out that balance in there? And also, it's interesting too about how, kind of the ups and downs is really a lot of times what drives a lot of the creative process. I think we see that on, especially in people in music, authors, whatever. Right. And, now like I said, I mean, she definitely is a strong, like there is this line between depression, mental health, right? You need to be understand, like, are you, that's not good, but things aren't always going to be good. We all have, losses in our lives. We all have, and how do you get through that? And what do you learn from that? And how does it actually make you stronger? So really good. Cause I that's something I'm a sucker for, like a sad song, like sad songs or like breakup, whatever. Like, and same thing with movies. Some of my favorite movies are movies that don't have a happy ending. Like, and actually, before I even read this, like my idea, like especially like even like a rom-com or some kind of a love story, something that ends in a bittersweet ending for me was always like, that's awesome. Like that
really subverts the expectation.
Right.
A little
bit of some of that. So again, interesting book, again, not for everybody, but it was interesting there. And then a real short one that I read, which I don't know, there's a something here that maybe we can take around that, but it's called Consciousness, A Brief Guide to the Fundamental Mystery of the Mind. I think this was, his name is a Tim Ferriss recommendation that he had thrown on there. Annika Harris is that. It's a real short. It's only like a couple hours. But her is just kind of more of an essay around the like what are some of the theories and what are the things around how does consciousness, we're all, we know we're conscious, but when you kind of step back, how do you prove consciousness? Challenges some of the things like, people are like, oh, conscious because it can interact, around that. And then also around, what is conscious? Who is, are we conscious? We kind of think, there's certain animals that are, right. That really kind of just makes you think about that and challenges the idea of like, I think, as humans, we're kind of like, we like to think we're the only ones around that have this idea.
That level of shared experience and wisdom and knowledge.
And then also just like from a biological standpoint, I think sometimes we tend to think of consciousness as separate from our bodies, whereas if she pulls a lot of science out and things like that, and I think where you realize that your consciousness is very much integrated with your body, right? And especially where like a lot of times you think your mind is driving the reaction when actually your body reacted and told your brain that it did it, right? There's this little
chemical release,
right, and it kind of, and there's, and it was interesting, and I maybe in sports, and we'll go a little bit down the tangent, right? I think there, as I played sports at high levels, and you too, like when you're in that zone, in some ways you're not, like, the worst thing you can do a lot of times is if you're thinking, you're not winning. You're not, right? I'm not hitting that ball. I'm not spiking it. I'm not blocking it. I'm not catching it. I'm not hitting that 90-mile-an-hour pitch, right? I'm around that.
Muscle memory and just letting your body do what it knows to do.
Right, to do, right. Which, and we think about that, right, is like, in some way that is a form of, like, our body's still, we're conscious, but we're not, like, you're not in the front of your mind, if you don't think about it that way. And that, so again, real interesting short book. In the end, there's no answers there, but a lot of interesting questions. And and again, I think it sits right next to a lot of sci-fi and things like that that I read. But this was, kind of real life and some of that stuff. So it's kind of my supplementary reading alongside as I'm working my way through the Malazan Empire.
Nice. I'm just counting down the days till we hear Malazan is getting option to. It's too big. I don't think they could ever do it.
No, it's one of those ones that's gonna. Well, I don't know, right? We're running long already, right? But some of the, like, even, and I haven't even paid attention, but it feels like Wheel of Time, right, didn't really hit the mark on that, and that's again, I think something that has a similar problem, right? It's like, how do you?
Yeah, good, not great.
Yep.
I think, Troy, that gets us through our acquisition disorder and our library and others. So let's talk about some upcoming events this weekend.
This weekend, and if you're listening to this, it's probably like now or tomorrow or
get out to Brookfield, Wisconsin right now and go to Nexus Game Fair.
Yep, because I'm probably there. At least Friday I'm there. We'll see. Originally I was gonna be out of town, but I for the rest of the weekend, but I'm around, so I may go more than Friday. But I am running games. I'll be there for sure Friday evening, running some games.
Cool. I have a baseball tournament in Cedarburg, play Friday night and Saturday afternoon, Saturday night. So I don't know if I'll get there. Maybe I'll be able to swing through on Sunday if we're not playing, and just check it out to get there for a day. But unknown. But that's at the Brookfield Convention Center, Brookfield, Wisconsin, just west of Milwaukee. This weekend, Thursday through Sunday, I think, right? 23rd.
Yep.
Through 26th. Then end of July, starting 10 a.m. Central, July 30th, running 30 hours. So sometime Sunday afternoon on July 31st. Andrew, Mr. Mephisto, is running his live stream for mental health. This year's charity is Take This. They are a kind of gamer-oriented mental health charity. Talk about a lot of awareness around removing the stigma of mental health, providing support, actionable ways to help in the communities. Some of what we see in abusive game studios and other places. So Take This is the charity. Recently, he did a rantcast with the director of Take This, and talked a little bit about it. So check that out. We'll also have the link in the show notes for the live stream. Every block is another content creator or different industry folks or people. I know our Milwaukee by Night cast is doing a segment Saturday night from 8 to 10, where we'll talk mental health and tabletop role-playing games. Can make donations in different segments. There is a ton of donations that have been provided for entry. It's not an auction. It's not you can't pay to play. But there's just a ton of gifts from different people. I bought a couple of the Vampire 5th edition hardcovers. So during our segment, we'll have some vampire themed stuff to give away, and I want to say that it's just incredible the amount of donations and contributions from the community. Last year was well over 12,000. I don't recall exact figures, but of dollars raised this year. Hoping to do more of the same. But drop into the Twitch hangout. We may or may not get an episode recorded before then. Hopefully we do, where we'll talk about it more. But just in case, it's one of those things where it'll be going for 30 hours. So if you've got 30 minutes, if you've got 3 hours, drop in and hang out and chat, see who's on, keeping Meph awake, and then late night he'll go take a little nap, and then some others will take over hosting for a few hours while he gets a little bit of sleep, and then comes back in the morning.
That are in a different part of the world, probably where the sun's up.
Either a different part of the world or just complete night owls, like Wo does late night segment sometimes. Then in first week of August, we've got Gen Con. Again, pretty excited for that. The events have been published. We're in some cool stuff. It'd just be fun to hang out again with the somewhat larger group than just you and Ben. Was it just you and Ben last year?
It was just me and Ben last year. It was kind of the
So we'll see. We're still threatening to kidnap Brice if he doesn't. Since Meltdown got canceled, he's freed up some time. Maybe we can throw him in the van and drag him along. Then NashCon. So Tom and Brice and I, my brother and Brice and I, are going down to Nashville. Evidently got to learn how to play 3rd edition Age of Sigmar before then, and a new General's Handbook will be out. So literally, I'm going to be the guy that gets clubbed like a baby seal. I'm probably going to go 0-5 because I have no idea what's happening in the game, and I'm going to borrow an army. But NashCon, August 20th, and then Dragonfall the same weekend as Gamehole Con. So Troy, you're going to have to pick and choose your battles and
and I am pretty scarce that weekend, unfortunately. Very rarely does my work, but we have some big things going on for work that weekend, so I will probably just be making an appearance at Gamehole on one end or the other of that thing. But
and that same weekend, if you need more, Herner's running one of the Holy events.
Oh, is it?
In Illinois. I think that's Holy Havoc weekend as well. So.
Well, and I think, and I know RockCon has also been that same weekend in years past. I have not double checked.
They need to all realize that there's this Venn diagram of their attendees that
they're definitely cannibalizing all their attendance in some form.
Yeah. So that kind of gets us through the convention. I know Origins just happened last week, so I didn't really mention that, but it was you start to see the game convention scene slowly coming back from the pandemic. Still ongoing, still some health concerns. Obviously, I think Gen Con is vaccine required and masks as of their June health update. I think you're seeing that at some of these larger gatherings. But yeah, it's good to get a few things on the calendar and have something to look forward to. Once I get through baseball season for my son's team, it'll be a little bit of focus on gaming. So, any other events or things we didn't touch on, Troy?
I think that's it. We will save some things for our next episode.
Full episode. Yeah, this is supposed to be our hour-long.
And I think we might have done. Encounter. Yeah, we might have done an hour plus. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. And we will. I don't want to foreshadow, but we're trying to get Terrace from Geek Nation Tours on in one of our next episodes here in the summer. So if it's not next time, maybe the time after that. But we'll try and get him on to talk. So.
I have a new mission in life to get somebody on the podcast.
Oh,
are you familiar with the actor Rahul Kohli? He was in iZombie. He was the coroner. He's in Midnight Mass. He played the sheriff. He's been doing a lot of miniature painting. GW sent him stuff. somebody I saw put on Twitter like, "Oh, I got laid off from work today, but blah blah. It'd be really cool is my podcast." And then Rahul Kohli's like, "Yeah, hit me up." So now I think what I'm going to do is either TikTok or like daily Twitter at him and say day one of trying to get Rahul Kohli on our podcast, in some sign or statement, and then keep it going. So maybe I'll start doing that with my minuscule Twitter following, because that to me would be just an awesome discussion.
Yeah. Well, it's all be good. Yeah, and we've had
New York
big-ish
Times
names.
best-selling authors, premier Magic the Gathering artists.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're getting there. And
yeah.
I think Matt Forback will be at Nexus, and so I'll be like,
say hi to Forback.
Say hi. Do you remember me? I was a little face on the screen.
All right. If you've got anyone else that you'd like to see us on the show, hit us up at Playin Slayin Show on Twitter. Visit us on basementofdeath.com. Email us. Find us different places. We'll be at conventions, usually wearing Basement of Death or Playin and Slayin t-shirts. Maybe we'll get some hats made or some other cool swag for convention season. But yeah, this was fun, Troy. We'll chat more Malazan here in the next random encounter. We'll just dedicate it to the bridge burners.
Yep.
But in the meantime, friends, keep the dice rolling, the drinks on ice, and no matter what, keep playing and slaying. And I made it through the outro there without having a brain collapse like I did on our live segment.
Oh.
Yeah.